Testing the range, I suppose. So one of the most annoying culture war sort of things that ends up happening in politics that I take no heed of and pay zero attention to is debates over representation in media. Every single movie, TV show, book, or anything ever that comes out apparently needs to have a massive debate over the casting in the modern world, because we just love ruining joy. We just love ruining joy. For example, I really love Hamilton, the musical. One of my favorite pieces of media to exist in the whole world. Obsessed with it. Actually prevented me from killing myself at one point, so that's interesting. Love Hamilton, okay? Hamilton, generally, pretty damn liberal piece of media. Even like Lin-Manuel Miranda like shook hands with Barack Obama at the White House. Barack Obama went to see it. It's like his favorite show of all time. Like it is the most liberal thing. Okay, incredibly woke, you could say, piece of media. Okay, but there was a small demographic of people who hate Hamilton. Because it involves the founding fathers, and the founding fathers did a slavery. Hey, I don't know if you know this. They did a slavery one time. They did a little bit of slavering. Did a little slavering. And I don't know what those people expect. Right? Do they expect Hamilton to just not exist? Is that what they want? Like this beautiful piece of art that's about so much more than just like the life of Alexander Hamilton. It's about like the legacy of ambition and people striving to have a legacy just in general outside of Hamilton. It's about every single liberal value being negotiated and debated on stage. It's beautiful. Okay. And do they expect it to just not exist? Right? Like, is the goal here that the only media that anyone can ever create about a founding father for the rest of time is inherently exclusively negative? Is that the goal? You can't even like make it nuanced. You can't, cause this play goes out of its way to acknowledge as much as humanly possible, like the stains of slavery as a legacy on the United States. I guess if you wanted to, you could launch like a leftist critique and say that actually there was sort of some fundamental values inherent to the Enlightenment that were based on slavery, like say the tyranny of the majority. That idea, right? You could argue that that's fundamentally racist because that idea mostly came up as a way of preserving the body of slavery as an institution. And so to this day, things like the Electoral College, still racist. So like, something like that, right? You could make a critique like that. But you would be ruining an amazing musical, right? Like at a certain point, you gotta weigh those two against each other. Yeah, and it had a diverse casting too, which I guess was somewhat controversial in a way. Really could please no one, right? Because there's some people who are like, George Washington wasn't black. This show isn't accurate. This show is woke. They made the founding fathers woke, right? And then there's other people who are like, how dare you make a slave owner be black, right? No pleasing anyone. No pleasing anyone in the modern world. Hamilton was doomed from the start. But in general, I'm of the opinion that you can cast anything, however the fuck you want. Just however you want to. One of my favorite, quotes is the creator of Spawn was once asked why he chose to make the character Spawn be a black man. He said, I don't know. He was just like, I just wanted him to be black for some reason. It's like, I just kind of felt like maybe he should be black. Like, that's a good reason. That was a white dude who just like wanted to write a story and he just thought, let's make a black man character. Why not? that's cool. That's just as legitimate of a reason as like telling a harrowing story about like the role that race plays in a person's life. Just as legitimate. Totally fine with that. There are also people who get mad when a character gets changed or altered. I think that's a cheap excuse, getting mad when a character is changed or altered. Right? They had Superman's son is like bisexual or gay or something, and there was a bunch of people who were like, well, you can't do that because Superman's not gay. And like, first of all, this version of Superman is Superman's son. Like, it's still a Superman comic, but it's Superman's son. But people got mad. People got mad because they made Superman gay, and he's historically not, right? But it's like, you can change characters. I don't think the history is what matters. I don't think that's the most important thing here. Yeah, I think it's fun to do variations on characters. And some people will insist that, no. If you want to have characters who are minorities, you should make a new character. You don't have to change our old characters. That's become a very, very big conservative talking point. It's kind of like a way of having a line without having to say, just don't put gay people in media ever. Because on some level, I think conservatives subconsciously recognize that they've started to develop this reaction where every single time there's a minority in any piece of media, they immediately want to call it woke. So they had to create a little line for themselves, a little imaginary line where they're like, well, no, it's only when original characters are turned into something else. And I apply that on principle. I apply that principle in both directions. So, for example, there was a character, Ghost in the Shell, Scarlett Johansson, played in the live-action remake of Ghost in the Shell. Never seen the animated one. Love the movie. Love that movie. One of my favorite movies of all time. And one thing that the movie did that was really cool was it had the main character be a white lady, Scarlett Johansson, but then it also had the main character be an Asian girl, because she comes to find out that, like her soul or what have you, the ghost in her robot shell, comes from a young Asian girl who almost died. And when she meets her mother, there's this beautiful moment where her mother is Asian and she's white, but her mother still knows that it's her, still knows that it's her daughter. You know, because she just knows her personality so well. And that is hauntingly beautiful. That's not how a lot of people saw it. For some reason, a lot of people didn't see it as hauntingly beautiful. A lot of people saw it as whitewashing an originally Asian character to make it more palatable to the white American audience. And they said that was terrible, that this could have been a job for an Asian actress, and that they're struggling. Don't you know how hard they're struggling? You should have hired more of them. I don't know. I kind of think maybe sometimes it's fine to Americanize a story, and maybe that means casting famous white people. And other times it's also fine to cast an Asian person in your movie for an Asian role. It's all fine. Maybe we just stop getting mad at each other because it's all fine. And this is the point where maybe some of the left-wing people are starting to disagree with me. They're saying, no, it's completely different. It's different. It's different when we do it. Okay. I don't think it is. I don't think it's different. I think you need it to be, but it's not. But let's talk about Dumbledore, okay? Dumbledore at one point, J.K. Rowling just decided he's gay now. And this was before all the trans stuff with J.K. Rowling. So that wasn't as big of a thing, okay? It wasn't about her personality. It was just, she just made Dumbledore gay, okay? And obviously a lot of right-wing people were like, you can't just make a character gay out of nowhere. You can't just do that, right? But on this particular circumstance, also a lot of left-wing people, a lot of like LGBT people were going like, come on. Because she was very clearly just taking a character that she never intended to be gay and just like saying he was gay out of nowhere while writing nothing about it, making no story involving his sexuality. She just kind of said it. Just to like ham-fistedly shove this in there for points, right? And it should be understood that that is what a lot of people on the right are saying. They're not saying, hey, anytime a minority is in a piece of media, it's bad. Although sometimes they do end up accidentally becoming the type of person who just anytime they see a black person in media, they're like, this is woke. It is important to remember, if you're a conservative leaning person who wants to be like against woke media or whatever, sometimes minorities exist, and sometimes they're in movies, and it doesn't always have to be like a plot, like an inorganic thing. Like, it's not always this inorganic thing, right? But even people on the left agreed on the Dumbledore thing that it was inorganic. They agree, they just don't call it the same thing. You know, they call it bad representation instead of like woke media. It's the same thing. We're all saying the same thing. We're just saying it in a different way. Mr. Bullhead, I've read enough to know about them. You're on fire. You're on fire. Damn. Ooh. So they're really just using slightly different language to talk about the same thing. There's like a center point of agreement on this issue that neither group is acknowledging, which is that it can simultaneously, that it's good when there is organic media that contains whatever it happens to contain, and that it's annoying when corporations ham-fistedly do anything, because that's what they do, in order to win points with their audience. This is true of stories too. Like, this isn't just specifically related to like identity groups, right? This is true also of stories. There'll be a big successful movie. There'll be some big movie that's very successful. Let's say Star Wars, right? And then, rather than learning the lesson that whatever like cool, unique perspective the like auteur or the writer had when he came up with Star Wars, right? Rather than learning the lesson that they need more cool, original concepts from smart writers who are really good at writing things like Star Wars, what they learn is lightsabers, right? And what they learn is like, let's make 1 million more of this identical set of like characteristics. Let's put lightsabers and spaceships in every movie for the next 5 years and see if it sells well. Because they only understand checking boxes. So yeah, there's a legitimate frustration. There's a legitimate frustration with people just checking boxes as it pertains to your identity. The root of that frustration is a frustration with corporate culture, right? That's the root of the problem. Because, spoiler alert, it's capitalism. It's capitalism is the problem. It's corporate culture. It's the fact that these things are treated as an industry and that the creatives do not have the room to just go in and create something out of the passion for it. They have to create something that people have reason to believe preemptively will sell, to make it a safer investment for the people who own these media industries. And so, on one hand, a lot of the discrimination that you might see happening in these industries is ultimately for that reason, right? The video game industry, for example, for the longest while believed that their target consumer demographic was straight white young men, right? And so because they believed that, a lot of the discrimination that went on was because they believed that they couldn't appeal to other consumer demographics. They didn't understand, in the way that a normal human being would, that obviously you can make a video game be about anything. It's just an interactive form of media. There's nothing fundamentally male about an interactive form of media. You could make like a girly Barbie game. Like, they didn't understand, the demographics didn't have to be that way. And so today, as there's this big pushback or this response, right, the opposite has been happening, where they've been starting to say, like, these industries need to change, right? They need to stop being discriminatory in that way. So now they're doing the same corporateness, but they're doing it in reverse. Now they're like, our demographic is people of color, so we need to put people of color in this movie. Have we thought about it at all? Have we decided in any way that this story relates to that? No. Does it make sense given the context? No. But we've decided to stick some stuff in here. We know audiences like female empowerment storylines. So we've decided to write a really, really boring, really basic, really predictable female empowerment storyline, right? The root of the problem, the shared enemy that we all have is this checking boxes corporate mentality. So maybe we stop focusing so much on getting mad about the casting of individual pieces of media, and we all just enjoy it. We all just enjoy ourselves, and we produce media however we want to, and we consume whatever media we want, and then we come after the corporate fucks in charge.